Hello, welcome to 15 Minutes of Consulting Best Practices. My name is Maria Isabel Rios, and I'm joined by, wait a minute, you guessed it right. David is on vacation, and he will be for the month of November. So it's just us. This is a space where we answer your questions about how to grow and create success in your consulting firm. We thrive by answering questions that are live, as well as by answering questions that are submitted in comments ahead of time. Hello, John. Good afternoon. John knows, and Fran knows as well, hello, Fran, that it takes us a minute to see your comment. Hello. And so we take advantage. Put in your thoughts, put in your questions, comment on what everybody else is sharing. And if you have a question, certainly type it in earlier rather than later so that I can get to it this morning. In the meantime, and as you type, Deidre, can you please show the first question we have for this morning? All right, this question is from Victor, and Victor asks, there's a previous client I work with very closely, but not for the past year or so. I've reached out many times and got nothing back. Then last week, the person responded, "Hi, friend, we should talk. I may need some help. I'm a bit pissed off that this person ignored me for months, then thinks I'm their friend. I scheduled a conversation with them. How should I handle the conversation?" Okay, unfortunately, this is a situation we're very familiar with, or most of us are familiar with. And I understand, Victor, that you're upset. Exactly, John. This is typical. We do hope, Carol, yes, that David has a great time on his vacation as well. Okay, so Victor, understandably, you are upset, right? And good on you for scheduling. This message underscores a point, or this question underscores a point. It's not about you, exactly like John says. And that's a difficult realization. All the time your prospect was not answering your messages and was ignoring you, it was most likely not about you. In your mind, you are his friend. So good on you for taking that initiative and actually scheduling it. And hopefully you can show up to the conversation and make it about the moment that you are in. Start with a right side up inquiry, meaning what would make this conversation helpful, valuable, and useful today? And take it from there and see where the conversation leads it. It sounds like your prospect really has a need or a want in mind that they at the very least want to bounce by you. So drop us a line, tell us where the conversation goes. Make it all about them. All right. Deidre, why don't you share the next question that came in? And for all of you who are listening, please put your questions in the comments as well. Thank you. In an article, David suggested that supporting a larger consulting company, taking on projects that are too small for them, is a good way to get going. Any suggestions about how to get started with them? Dave. Okay, thank you, Dave. Thank you for picking up on that suggestion and for continuing the conversation. Okay, how do you get started building business with larger consultancies where you can take on smaller projects for them? First thing is you would treat them like you treat people in your network core, because they are, right? You develop a relationship, you get to know them. You also let to get them know you, right? What does your firm do? What are your capabilities? And in that exchange, you treat them as you would a prospect. It's about connecting. It's about getting you both to know each other in your conversation. And never forget that the other firms are your prospects. So be client focused. Focus on them as well. There's a couple of ways where you can activate collaboration paths. One, start talking about collaborations. How can our firms actually collaborate? And we've run away from using the word partnering because in recent years, people have started thinking about partnering as if it were a legal structure or it requires you to kind of take shares in each other's firms. That's not the structure you're looking about. You're looking more for how can you stand side by side and add value to each other, right? So one is name it. We want to reach a stage where we're collaborating. How would that look like? A different alternative of reaching that point using perhaps a little bit of a different language, is to use a modified version of the overture. Would you say, you know what, it will be fun to play together and to get an opportunity for our two firms to have a chance to play together as firms? Would you agree? Presumably, your larger firm counterpart says, yes, that would be fun. How would that look like? I don't quite know how would that look like. Then you queue up the second part of the overture. Are you open to a separate conversation where we have a brainstorming session where we explore potential avenues on how we could make that happen? If we can find a way to make that happen, great. If not, great as well. And there you have it. Treat them as a potential client, because they are, and also find ways to eventually open a conversation around a collaboration. And that's a cue. Now I'm going to turn to the comments for a second because I can't kind of read and talk at the same time. And I want to make sure I'm capturing what everybody's sharing. Yeah, Fran and John are right. Exactly. You keep in mind that it takes a fair amount of time, that the bigger firms have onboarding as well, that collaboration is now a term, and that you have partnered with, Daniel has partnered with 3 other consulting firms and have several others in their network. Exactly. And they also, one, they can give you business, but eventually at some instances, you can potentially give them business as well. So great. Thank you for participating and for letting us know your thoughts and your experiences around this. This is what makes this space rich. All right, Deidre, it seems we have time for perhaps a couple more questions. Okay, this question is from Troy. I have a particular specialty, but my firm does more than I do. The problem is that I see opportunities for projects outside my area of expertise. Okay, that's interesting. But when I raise them, the client wants to know what our approach would be. Then I start fumbling and bumbling and I lose the sale. Okay, got it. How do I build credibility in those situations so I can win that business for my firm? Troy. Thank you, Troy. Okay, so if I understand this setting correctly, Troy, you have clients and you're talking about opportunities, or you're looking at opportunities that go beyond the extent of the projects you're doing and your expertise, because you know your firm can address them. But when it comes to the particulars, you're not so familiar with them. If that is the setting, and if not, please write me a note. And if you're live right now, write me a note and correct me, right? But assuming that is the setting, I want to say a couple of things. First, good for recognizing a communication gap, Troy. That's very important, right? It's hard to look at ourselves in the mirror sometimes and recognizing where we are having gaps. First suggestion is get familiar. And if your firm doesn't have it, perhaps help develop 3 pieces of communication for your consulting firm. The first one is your fishing line. Fishing line is the quintessential answer to what does your firm do. Sounds like you're in a large consulting firm. We typically say 1 fishing line per $3.5 to $5 million of business if your firm has different verticals. So get familiar if your firm has multiple fishing lines with what the fishing line of your other verticals are. So say you have a vertical in transportation, and say you have a vertical in supply chain applied to consumer goods, right? And they're both tied by supply chain, but one is applied to transportation and the other one is consumer good management. Get familiar with the fishing line of your other vertical. Very important, right? What does the firm do? That will allow you to answer that piece succinctly. The second piece that it's important for you to get familiar with, it's what's the core model? What is your firm's view of the world? Again, you can have a core model per vertical, and your firm, more likely than not, has several core models or could develop several core models. That's a way to articulate really quickly what does your firm view the world? How does it view the world? How does it look at it? So armed with those two things, you've already provided your prospect with two succinct answers that demonstrate a level of knowledge. The third piece that goes with it is the core offerings. Now, you may not know them all, but you may know or familiarize yourself with what are the most typical, most recurring, or the higher value driving core offering your firm has on deck, right? Armed with those three, you can have a very top level conversation. For anything that is below that, then the suggestion is do not be shy. Open the conversation up to your firm's experts. Bring them into your next round of conversations for that particular area of expertise. There's nothing wrong with saying, look, I can share about what my firm does in this space, how we think about the world, and perhaps a top level flavor of the types of projects we do. I would really love you to meet who leads this team. Can we make that conversation happen? And that's a good bridge between you and the expert who will most likely be leading that piece of work for your firm. You enhance your credibility. You also enhance the credibility of your firm. So what do you all that are here think? What do we advise the person who was asking the question? And Suzanne says, sounds like an opportunity for your marketing team to provide some talking points. Sounds like they will welcome you reaching out. Exactly. And the marketing team is ideally also informed by what the business team has defined or the consulting team has defined as the right people, the right problem they're answering, right? All the 4 rights that creates impact in each area. Then it's get handed to the marketing team, then the marketing team hands it back to the consulting teams. So yes, definitely conversation with the marketing team and know those 3 pieces, at least the very first one. What is the fishing line? What is a core model? And what is the core offerings if you have them standardized or push for them to get developed? All right. Let's see if we can squeeze in one more question, Deidre. Okay, this question is for Alan. We're thinking of migrating our CRM to a new system. Which one do we use and what should we look for? All right, migrating your CRM. Thank you, Alan. Okay, here I'm going to give you a non-answer answer. So the non-answer answer is that the name of the platform is less important than how you set it up. The key is really how you set it up and what capabilities you enable and how you structure your CRM. So what things to look for? Simplicity, I would say, number one thing to look for, right? We ourselves use a very simple system called Pipedrive. Very, very simple. I think we're even in the simplest version of Pipedrive there is, because we really don't need a lot of mass capability. We want to have visibility of all the stages of the pipeline, and we want to assign people and actions, dates quickly and effectively so nobody gets lost. If you're able to do that, and if all your team is able to operate with that system, you have a winning CRM. A lot of our clients use HubSpot. Think simpler, don't think more complex. And that's basically my non-answer answer. Don't think so much about the brand. Exactly. Simple, simple, simple. What do you want out of it? And will people in your firm adopt it? And with that, we're at time. So we have 3 requests of you before we leave you today. The first request is if you haven't added this spot into your calendars already, use the link that Deidre is showing somewhere around here and add it to your calendars. It would bring you right here to the right LinkedIn Live every week. davidafields.com/Monday Live. Also, if you're not reading David's articles and you're not receiving them every week, subscribe. They're fun, they're funny, they're also very insightful, and the articles are gold, and the comments and the exchanges are gold as well. And lastly, join the waiting list for the Solo Practice Accelerator. The one for March 2025, the wait list is open already. Sign in, because that's where most people who attend end up coming from. So there's the link as well. Please sign in. And I'll see you next Monday. Thank you for joining today. Consulting is about our clients. It's about bringing value, and it's about bringing delight to them and to us as consulting leaders. So focus on them, focus on bringing value to them, and do it in a way that creates growth and delight for you. And I'll see you next Monday. Bye. Have a good week.